The planche lean is the most fundamental of planche progressions, and I'd go as far as saying that it is as important for the planche as the chest to wall is for the handstand, in that the more we can lean while maintaining scapular protraction and straight arms, the better our planche development will be, but it's a tricky one to get right, so here's how to do it. Now, most planche videos focus on scapular protraction, and rightly so. Pushing the shoulders as far away as possible is key for the planche. The thing is, what full protraction looks like is different person to person. So before we get started, we're going to get on our hands and knees and drop the shoulders away from the ears and push the ground as far away as we can. Remember, we're looking for protraction here, not rounding the back. What this position shows us is what full protraction looks like with no resistance. And so in our planche lean, and all our planche training for that matter, this is the shoulder position that we need to be aiming for and hitting every single time. Okay, so now we know what protraction looks like. For us to actually do the planche lean, we're going to get back onto that quadruped position again. We want our hands to be slightly turned outwards. I personally like my thumbs to be parallel. This will allow for more mobility in our wrists when we lean forward. Lock out the elbows, fully protract the scapula, straighten the legs and squeeze the glutes so that we end up with this straight line head to toe, and aim to hold this for 10 to about 15 seconds. Now, there are some common mistakes that we will need to avoid if we want our planche lean to translate to full-on planche training, and first and foremost is having straight arms. Cali Crowd, this is a straight arm skill, and so to keep this specific, get those elbow pits facing forwards. A problem I see a lot in planche work as well is this wonky hand position, which will make it harder to balance even a planche lean. We can use a bar or tape to keep the hands in line for this to get around this issue. Having the hips too high is another common mistake. This is usually done with the best intentions and it's intuitive, right? In the planche, we want to get our feet off the ground, and so we think it makes sense to try and lift our bum upwards, often rounding the back as we go as well. I'd argue that this misconception is the reason why the planche lean is such a fundamental exercise, because it's actually the shoulders that do the heavy lifting in the planche, not the hips. We actually need to squeeze the glutes hard in this position, which not only eliminates any arch in our lower back, but actually puts the hips into a lower position than the shoulder. Enough lean, enough strength in the shoulder and full body tension, and over time we will start to feel lighter on our toes in the planche lean. And actually, speaking of the toes for a second, it can be tempting as we get tired to place more weight onto the feet. So instead of resting our weight on our toes, place the top of our feet face down. And to really drill down on this discipline, we can place our feet against a wall so that the tactile feedback of the wall will make any shift of our weight backwards incredibly noticeable. It will also be tempting to look over at a mirror as we do our planche lean. Don't do this. If we're doing the planche lean right, the amount of tension going through our neck and shoulders will be considerable. So to completely avoid any risk of neck strain, just focus on doing a high quality rep, and if you want to see what you look like, film yourself. Now, this may all be very difficult for us to get our head around, but there are some regressions that we can look at while we get used to this all. Now, many recommend starting with only a slight lean and progressing the lean over time. Nothing wrong with that, as long as we're measuring our progress. But I personally have found that going for maximum lean, but using bands to assist us, is probably more preferable. This will get the wrists and the shoulders used to being in the right position without nearly as much load. Just be sure not to allow the band to mess with your body line, and obviously we can progress over time by using a lighter band. Crowd, the planche lean is not just for beginners, but necessary throughout our road to planche. And if you want to see the self-taught calisthenics skills that I have learned, then check out this video right here.